Hello Year 11, I'm going to talk to you about War Photographer by Carol Ann Duffy, which is one of the power and conflict poems that you need to know for your literature exam. Okay, War Photographer is written in third person, and in it the poet starts by describing a photographer in his darkroom developing pictures which he's taken. He's described as like a priest preparing to intone a mass. So there's a sense of reverence about this process. He's sort of ordering, developing, they're placed in ordered rows, these pictures that he's taken. And the sense also that perhaps he's described as like a priest because many of the people who feature in his pictures, which are taken from war zones, have perhaps died. So he's almost conducting a kind of service for these people, or somehow honouring or remembering these people through developing the images that he's taken of them. As he develops the pictures, images start to form. He remembers one man in particular who we assume has been killed or seriously injured, and he recorded and documented that. As he develops the pictures, he starts to tremble. There's a line which says, "His hands which did not tremble then, though seem to now." So there's a sense that in the moment when he takes the pictures in very dangerous and stressful situations, he's actually quite calm and focused, perhaps carried along by adrenaline. But when he has time to reflect on what he's seen, he's actually quite traumatised by it and quite upset at the pictures that his development reveals. Towards the end of the poem, he thinks about how being back in England, developing the pictures, seems very ordinary compared to the places that he's visited. It describes how his editor selects one or two pictures to feature in the Sunday newspaper, and how perhaps the photographer feels that the people who read the newspaper can't really understand, just from looking at a picture for a few moments, the extreme situations and the emotions that are behind the pictures. It describes how the people do not care. They look at the pictures for a moment and perhaps feel a little bit of sadness, and then they move on with their life. But for the photographer, he's somehow trapped really in this world, and at the end of the poem he's described as flying back on a plane to go back to war zones to take more of these images. A few quotations that I would learn from the poem. The description of ordinary pain back in England is very interesting. This distinction between suffering, so ordinary pain, the everyday annoyances that we have in our lives, which simple weather can dispel. So a bit of sunshine and we forget about them. These are juxtaposed with the horrific sights that he's seen in war zones. So he talks about looking at fields and realising that they do not explode with running children in a nightmare heat. So there's a sense that the things he's seen start to seep in and overlay the ordinary things back in England, and that he's somehow unable to connect the two, his ordinary day-to-day life, the people at home in a country that is at peace, in comparison to the horrific experiences of people living in war zones. The pictures are described as 100 agonies in black and white. So metaphorically, they're described as pain, as a series of pain. The use of the phrase black and white could mean that they're laid out very starkly, or perhaps that they reveal the truth. We often talk about things being in black and white, meaning that they're laid out truthfully. Also, of course, they're printed in a newspaper, which makes it more likely that they've been printed in black and white. The poem's written in quite regular stanzas, and at the end of each stanza there's a rhyming couplet, so the final two lines rhyme. I think there's a sense, so it's slightly irregular in the preceding four lines, but the final lines rhyme. There's a sense that he's somehow trying to make sense of the chaos that he's seen. He's somehow trying to order his experiences, but he can't quite manage it. His hands still tremble. He's not quite as in control as he would like to be.